Good evening, everyone. This is Ian from the Big Scuba podcast. Welcome and thanks for joining us, and thanks for joining us on our YouTube channel. We are slowly building it up, and I can't believe we're up to episode 7. And this is my daughter, Honey. Say hello.
Hello.
So we thought we'd just come and tell you about what's coming up on episode 7. So stay tuned. So this is the second part of Andy Torbet talking about his diving and the things that he does and some of the advice and experiences that he has to share with us all. And cave diving is one of the first things he talks about on this episode, and some of those caves that he does are sort of somewhere between 60 to 100 meters down, and by the time he gets there they're like 4 kilometers. So really fascinating, and it's amazing some of the dives that he has to do, to get there. Redundancy building, he talks about that. He also talks about Operation Iceberg, and he does every 2 weeks this with Sunto Live. So there's one of them coming up this week, so look out for Andy on Instagram, and he'll go through all that about what he's got coming up. On the podcast, he also talks about his advice for if starting to dive, and if you've got children, what's the best way of getting them into it. And also he talks about his free diving experiences with the mako shark. So that's a really good experience that he does, and it's well worth listening to that. So hope you enjoy the show, and thanks for joining us, and we'll speak to you soon. Enjoy the show.
Stay safe. Goodbye.
Hey, hello, Andy.
You're right.
Hello, hi.
Yeah, it's all good.
Having a good day?
Yeah. All ticking along. It's beautiful weather outside. Can't really do much, but it's what it is. In the afternoon, I usually run like a forest school because I've got home school at the moment. So Bex does the morning, and I'll usually work in the morning, and then I'll quickly train, and then take the kids out and do shelter building and fire building and wildlife stuff and bits and pieces. So it's been a nice day for it.
Yeah, sounds fun.
I'm in the Forest of Dean in the Wye Valley.
Oh, right, nice one.
Yeah, it's a shame we couldn't meet in person. It is what it is, and this is the circumstance we've got. But if you're sat in the same room as the person or people, it's just so much, I think, certainly easier, because it's just, you're just chatting rather than chatting to a screen, but,
Okay, so when did you last dive before the coronavirus all hit?
The last dive I did was a free dive a couple of days down in Cornwall with some friends of mine who run Aqua City Freedivers, Georgie Miller and Dan Verhoeven. I was just looking at doing some advanced freediving stuff. And just before that was about a month or so before it hit. And then a few weeks before that, I was out in France doing sort of some recce's for some exploration, cave diving exploration with Chris Joe and Rich Stevenson. Down in this sort of Hérault area of France near Marseille. There's still quite a lot of underwater cave systems there that haven't been explored properly. So, but these days to get new passageways, new places to explore, you're having to go further and further and further. So one of the things we looked at to start the new part, you were doing a 4-kilometer scooter, most of which was between 60 and 100 meters. And that's in. So then you then start exploring from there, and then after you've got to come back to that point and then do 4 kilometers to get back out. So you've got a minimum of 8 kilometers of scootering between 60 and 100 meters deep. So it's getting quite serious now to find new places. But yeah.
So really, when it comes to fitness, for anyone to do that sort of level, you've got to be really on your A game for that to be able to make that doable dive, really, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, physical fitness wise, yes, because it's at the bottom of a massive gorge. You've got to hump all the kit down there and back up. I mean, it was a day to get all the kit in and a day to get all the kit back out, because we had 3 rebreathers, 4 scooters, about 20 cylinders, a habitat, obviously our suits, mask, fins, snorkels, helmets, torches, cameras, blah 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 blah. So there's a lot of huge weight of equipment to manhandle down the side of a gorge and then back out again. So there's that, and then the dive itself, you'll be dive fit. You have to be on the ball. You have to make sure that you're happy with your systems, and even things like scootering for a few hundred meters is not the same as scootering for 4 kilometers. So you've got to make sure you've got to have done your timing, your scooter, make sure it's set up perfectly for you so it's comfortable to use. You know, and the cold, it was 11 or 12 degrees Celsius, the water, which isn't too cold, but again, if you're exposed to that for 6, 7, 8 hours, it starts getting pretty serious. You've got to have your insulation and all that sort of systems, you know, working well, dry gloves, double hoods, all that sort of stuff, and the habitat, which will save you, because then you've only got to make it back to 6 meters, not to the surface, to be able to get out your kit, get out the water and warm up a bit and eat some food and drink some fluids.
Right. So basically, you've taken virtually double kit with you, really, to do those sort of things.
Yeah, I mean, redundancy is a big part of it. Huge part. You know, you should be able to have a complete systems failure at the worst possible point, which in this case would be 4 kilometers from the entrance or exit, and still make it back. So you've got 3 divers, but you can move two push divers who work as a pair. They're a rebreather each, and then in our case we had. Now, ideally, you'd have then another spare side mount rebreather each. But in this case, because we didn't have enough, we carried bottles. But we had enough bailout between us to support one diver, because you know, the chance of both rebreathers failing are pretty slim. You know, and you can't physically carry enough gas each.
So is it just the 2 of you, or when you're doing those sort of type of caves?
Yeah. Well, it depends on the cave. Sometimes only one. You know, sometimes it depends on the sort of the nature of the cave system and the depth and distance and all that sort of stuff. We then had 3 scooters, because we looked at it and said, right, we can carry enough gas to get one person out, assuming the scooter doesn't fail as well. So you carry a 3rd scooter. So we had enough kit to deal with 1 rebreather and 1 scooter failing, basically. But if anything else had failed, that'd been it, game over. So, you know, because you always want to build in these layers of redundancy to make sure as safe as possible. Have a plan B, C, D, E, and F in your pocket. But there gets to a point when you physically can't carry enough kit, and it becomes, you know, almost more cumbersome and more dangerous to make it safer. You know, the example somebody's used is, you know, do you carry a spare mask? And a lot of people say yes, some people say no. But and the reason is, if your mask gets ripped off or breaks, you've got a spare mask. People say, well, what happens if that mask breaks? Should you carry a 3rd mask? And if that mask breaks, should you carry a 4th mask and a 5th mask? Before you know it, you've got 200 masks in your back pocket. So there has to be a line. You go, okay, that's an acceptable level of risk. You know, I might carry a spare mask, but I'm never going to carry 2 spare masks.
No. Worst case scenario is, you know, you've got no mask, but at least you can still breathe. That's the main thing, isn't it?
Exactly, and that's what I always, again, when giving corporate talks on risk and that sort of stuff, I use diving, cave diving as a really good example of these sort of things and how we make them safe. Because it's not about doing dangerous things, but taking things that would be dangerous if you did them badly and doing them right, so that, you know, they are safe.
So on average, just on an average dive like that, you'd have your rebreather on, your usual redundancy kit. How many tanks? And because we're talking side mount tanks.
Yeah.
So how many tanks would you have on you as just you to do that dive?
Depends on the nature of the dive, but potentially 4 side mounts. But we might drop them as we go, you know, because the great thing about, if you're down a deep wreck, there's a chance you go down the shot line, you might be swept off the wreck and have to, you know, come up on your own somewhere else. But in a cave, you're going to go in one way and back out the same way. You know, you lay in line, you're following the line back out. So you can clip bottles off the line, knowing that you're definitely going to come back past them. So you might get in with 4 bottles. In fact, we've even got in with 6 bottles and dropped the first pure oxygen at 6 meters, and then a 50% of nitrox at 25 meters, and then gone in, you know, and the first kilometer we've then got 4 bottles of Trimix. We drop 1 at the first kilometer in, the next one at the next kilometer in, and then keep 2 on us for the last bit, and then, you know, and then pick those bottles up as we come back out. But it's very much, it depends on the team as well. You know, sometimes we do as a 3-man team, we might only carry enough gas to get one of us out, because again, we think, well, what are the chances of we've got 3 rebreathers, 1 might fail, what are the chances of 2 of them failing? Pretty negligible. So we you know, we might only carry 2 bottles each between 3 of us. So yeah, I get it, and it depends on the depth, because obviously if you're going open circuit, the deeper you are, the faster that open circuit gas is going to diminish. Which is why now we're looking at using side mount rebreathers as a bailout option, because then, you know, you basically dive with 2 rebreathers, because then if one fails, you go into your side mount, and then you've got all the time in the world. So and that's why I do like rebreathers. There's a lot of benefits to them. Obviously, the length of time you can go underwater and the depth and the sort of the physiological impact of the gas you're breathing, but mainly you're not in a rush. And most things underwater can be sorted if you've got enough time. And that's the problem with open circuit. And don't get me wrong, rebreathers have got some serious drawbacks as well, where open circuit is a better option. But with rebreathers, you've just got more time. And what you tend to find is a lot of rebreather divers who dive rebreathers 99% of the time. When you put them on open circuit, they can run out of gas because they just not pay attention to the gas, because if you've got a 6-hour scrubber life, you suddenly don't really have to care that much about checking your gauges all the time.
Yeah. So just a very quick question on that. If there's 2 of you or 3 of you, say, doing the cave like that, would you have a normal mask or would you have a full face mask so you can talk to each other?
No, we just go with normal half masks. The full face masks are good for I've used them on rebreathers for presenting because you can chat, but they're not that comfortable to wear. They hugely close down your peripheral vision, and actually more so looking down. They kind of cover up. When I've got one on, I can't see much above my knees, so you've got in my touch. Try to find stuff on your belt or your waist or your D-rings. This can be real pain. Especially if you've got 3 pairs of woolly gloves on and rubber dry gloves. Suddenly it becomes difficult. So yeah. And the other thing is that they slightly extend the length of the mouthpiece, so your CO2 problems can't. We have tested them and they've been safe enough, but you are adding an extra length to the loop, so you are increasing your chances of CO2 issues, which is a big problem with rebreathers. But mainly they're just a pain in the arse to use, to be honest. So we don't use them unless we absolutely have to.
That's fair enough. There's always a trade-off with these things, isn't there?
Yeah.
What you win on one thing, you lose on another. So no, that's fine. Thanks for answering that. While we're in this whole lockdown situation, have you got any sort of diving-related sort of activities sort of planned? Are you sort of like reading up on anything or
we're
sorting your gear out, stuff like that?
Yeah, well, we're doing a bit of maintenance on my kit, which is seriously needed. We've got a couple of expeditions, do some cave diving stuff, and a free diving film that I'm trying to make. So I'm kind of just doing a bit more research on that and storyboarding the film and that sort of stuff. And then I'm doing fortnightly talks on the Soon-to Diving UK Facebook page. So I'm on my own Instagram channel, usually on diving stuff. So 2 weeks ago, I did a Q&A about diving. Tomorrow night, I'm doing a thing about Operation Iceberg, which was a BBC series, but we did a lot of diving around icebergs and in glacial lakes and ice caves. Yeah. And in a couple of weeks' time, I think I'm going to do the sort of underwater bits of Beyond Bionic, that CBC series I made. And then the 2 weeks after that, if we're still in lockdown, I might do a sort of freediving snorkeling one. And then after that, I might do a technical one. So yeah, I'm doing a lot of talking and a lot of reading, but not much doing.
Cool. Yeah.
Try and be productive. Yeah. So, what would you say to anybody thinking about giving scuba diving a go?
Don't do it. It's rubbish. With scuba diving or anything else, I'd say give it a go. I mean, it's one of those things that people say, especially divers go, I'm going to try and get my wife or my husband or my son or my daughter into it. I'm sort of tempted to say, look, train them in the UK because it's the best place to train in the world, because it's probably the hardest place to dive in the world. You know what I mean? If you train in the UK, you can dive anywhere.
Yeah.
We've got relatively cold water, a lot of tides, bad weather, not great visibility. You've got to wear a lot of kit, big dry suits, big undersuits, a lot of weight. But by the same token, if you want to kind of entice them in, then maybe it's not the first place you want to show them diving. Maybe take them to Malta or Cyprus and go, this is how good it can get. Because the people who start in the UK, I started as a kid, so it was different, but they first dive in Endach or Stony Cove or off Chesil Beach, and they love it. I'm like, that is amazing. I'm really impressed, because if you love that, just wait to get to cenotes of Mexico or off the Maldives. So I'm always tempted to say, look, take them somewhere nice and warm and clear with some cool animals, or actually, as I did, take them snorkeling first, because snorkeling, you know, if you love snorkeling, you love diving, you know. It's a nice, it's a cheap introduction, so they don't like you haven't spent a lot of money on kit. And actually, in the UK, there's some really good snorkeling places. I mean, you know, one of the best things you can do in the UK is basking sharks or grey seals, you know, in the water with them, and that's all snorkeling. If you go off the Farns, and I've done it loads of times for TV and other things, you jump in the water off the Farns, the grey seals are all around you. You just only use a mask and snorkel. And that's a great way to kind of inspire people to carry on, because you show them how good it can get straight away. When you've got 3 or 4 massive animals just literally going between your legs, you know, under your arms. Whereas if you take them to a big muddy puddle in freezing cold hail and go, right, this is diving, they're like, this is rubbish. Yeah,
it's true.
Yeah, I must admit, you said do it here, haven't you, to learn? And
we run a rescue course with the Norwich Dive Centre in a lake, and the visibility is near on non-existent. Really, it's like diving in a stewed cup of tea, really, is what it's like. And we do the rescue course there because it's a good place to, you know, to learn how to find a missing diver and an unconscious diver and those sort of things. And it works well. For that sort of thing.
Yeah, I'm part of a sort of cave diving sort of rescue working group, and we used one of the pools at Wookie Hole sometimes to do some testing of kit and that, and we've gone in there and gone up and gone, oh my God, you know, visibility is great today. Nightmare, right? We've got to go in and kick up the visibility to try and make it a bit more realistic, try and make it a bit harder. Because the reality is, if you're doing a rescue from a cave, you're probably going to be in nil visibility. So, you see all these videos of people doing sort of teaching drills out in like Thailand or Mexico, and they're there in their 2 mil wetsuit with no hood and no gloves, doing all these perfect trim, perfect buoyancy, and putting delayed SMBs up. And I'm thinking, all right, mate, let's see you do that in rubbish viz with 3 pairs of gloves on, a dry suit, twin set, you know, in a massive swell, you know, at 6 meters, all that kit on, you know, in the middle of the English Channel, in the middle of February. Then I'll be impressed. But see, if you can dive in the UK, you can dive anywhere.
Yeah. I agree with that.
Is there anything you would have done differently on your whole journey?
I don't know, because even the stuff that was unpleasant or bad, because I survived it was all lessons well learned. You know, like, because I started my diving career from 12 to 21, I didn't own a dry suit. You know, and my first dry suit was an Army issue one, which leaked anyway. So you know, I was just diving a wetsuit, so a dry suit was luxury, even though it leaked all the time. So the first time I ever got into a non-leaking dry suit, I was like, my God, this is amazing, you know. So and the close calls I've had, you know, taught me lessons and stuff. And a close call can be a really, really useful thing, a good thing to happen to you, as long as it is a close call and you do get away with it, because you know, it'll teach you much more, or the learning curve is much faster when you almost die than 1,000 lessons or books read will have the same impact. I don't know if I would. I mean, I might. I don't know. I might have started my cave diving career a bit earlier when I was still in the forces, but I was quite busy when I was in the forces. So not much. There's not actually much I'd changed, to be honest. I think. No.
No, that's good. You've obviously mentioned travelling. So have you pretty much covered the whole world with your diving and other activities?
Not even close. The world's quite a big place, and being most of it's water, there's still a huge amount. So I've done that. You know, I've still never dived the cenotes in Mexico. I've still not been cave diving in Mexico, which is a bit of a mecca for cave divers. I'd like to dive in Lake Nasser, because there's some pyramids at the bottom of Lake Nasser, which was a man-made lake created by the Aswan Dam in Egypt. But and they moved a lot of the stuff. But there's some pyramids that were in the valley that weren't moved; they're flooded. Partly the visibility probably nil, because it's behind a dam, and reservoirs are always pretty nil visibility. You know, there's cave systems I'd love to dive that no one's ever dived. There's cases in northern India that I've been kind of had on the back burner for years now and just never really got around to doing. I've still not dived with a whale shark, which again is, you know, got me up there. I've been to the Arctic a few times, but I've never been to Antarctica. So, you know, that's on the list. yeah, I mean, there's a big world of underwater stuff out there,
Yeah.
and only a fraction has ever been explored as well. So people say, "Oh, which shipwreck do you want to dive?" It's like, well, the one that no one knows exists yet. That would be the cool one. So yeah,
It'd be amazing if you could just drain the oceans to see what's there, and then
yeah,
go back when it's all full up again.
yeah.
What's your favourite dive location so far, and why?
I should really say NDAC, the National Diving Activity Centre, because that's about half a mile from my house, and I go around there all the time. But
That's one of my favourite sites as well.
well, it's really hard for test and kit because it's about 80 metres deep. So myself and Rich Stevenson do a lot of camera tests and light tests and that there, and kit testing. And because it's like literally 3 minutes from my house, it's quite handy just to nip. I'll just nip round for jump in the water for half an hour, come back and go. But in the UK, I don't know. I mean, I've done a lot of stuff in Cornwall and Devon, and the west coast of Scotland is pretty awesome, and round Orkney. Globally, we've done a lot of cave diving in France, a lot of filming in the caves in France. We've used them a lot, but East Africa was really cool. South China Sea was good. Actually, free diving with mako sharks off the sort of California and Mexican border, but actually way off, like 25, 30 miles out to sea in the middle of the Pacific, was pretty good. That was just on a snorkel. Probably actually, you know what? There's a dive or some dives we did in Japan, and it was less about the dive site and more about the dive team. So I did this thing for my mate Monty Halls. He did a series for Channel 5 years ago called Monty Hall's Dive Mysteries, I think it was called. Anyway, and Monty was presenting it. I wasn't presenting it. Monty was presenting it. Kev Gar was the dive supervisor, who the tech divers will know. Kev was one of like the first ever technical diver, rebreather divers in the country, decades ago. Dan Stevenson and Rich Stevenson were the cameramen on it, who are really, really good mates of mine. Obviously, Monts is a really, really good friend for years. And then me. And I was doing like sort of safety, general, just divers. So the supervisor, two cameramen, a presenter, and then the general dive board who just got in the water and helped people and was safety for everybody and filled cylinders and that stuff. Anyway, we're all really, really, really good friends for years before the show started. I was basically on holiday. And we went all around the world, but in Japan, we were doing these really easy dives, like 20, 30 meters deep, on this thing called Yonaguni, which is a kind of weird underwater geological formation. But it's got ripping currents, absolutely phenomenally fast currents. So they dropped in the four of us, so it was me, Monty, Dan, and Steve, and Rich, Stevenson, about a long way up from this kind of underwater thing. And as soon as we hit the water, we are just like absolutely racing along the seabed, and you could hear people laughing underwater. You could hear people laughing. And we got to this big sort of, it looks man-made. It's not, it's natural, but it looks man-made kind of formation. You kind of grab on the corners of this sort of block, some huge kind of building, and you're flapping like a flag in the wind. And you're letting go and then just cartwheeling past, or your mate greets and grabs you as you go past. And again, we're open circuit as well. So, it lasts about 5 minutes because not only working really, really hard, but also laughing our heads off. And, that was just one of the funniest dives, the best fun. So that was less about the dive itself or the dive site and more about the dive team. But that's definitely a memorable one.
Sounds fun.
That sounds great. How about the funniest moment or blip in your diving life and why? I've not had that many like blips because it's not because I'm like pretty special, just because that I'm so paranoid. I check my kit and double check it and double check it. I have turned up to a job once, actually, a filming job, and forgot my fins. That was pretty bad. Yeah, that wasn't ideal. And we didn't have any spares, so the cameraman had a set of fins and me, the only two divers jumping in. So he jumped in, and I just had to Richard had always shoot me like half in frame so you couldn't see my feet. So that was pretty bad. And I've done a dive, I think every underwater sort of cameraman, filmmaker, photographer has a story like this. Luckily, I wasn't main camera, but I jumped in with a camera and got down to the bottom, and for some reason my camera wasn't working, and then I turned it over and checked, looked through the dome port and saw that the
lens cover was still on.
Oh no.
Which clearly there's nothing you can't take it apart. You can't get to it. The only way to get it is to go back to the surface. Hand it back to the guy in the boat, get out of it, get your kit off, undo the housing, take the camera out, blah blah. So it's like that's it. That's it. The camera's So yeah, left the lens cover on. But I think almost every cameraman or photographer has a story like that at some point in their career. But yeah, as I said, I don't tend to make any big mistakes because the diving I do nowadays doesn't really allow for it, or certainly doesn't allow for making mistakes that you can't fix. I always say like something like cave diving or deep diving is quite binary in that with something like skydiving or rock climbing, you can have an accident and you can get a small to a big injury. You can take a climbing fall and all you do is just scrape your leg, or you can break your ankle, you can break your femur, you can break your back, you can be in a coma, you can die. There's this kind of graduation of increasingly more serious kind of incident. With cave diving, there's only three ways it's going to go. It's either going to go well and you're going to get out in one piece, it's going to go badly, you're going to fix it, you can get out in one piece, or it's going to go badly, you're not going to fix it and you're going to die. Like people don't really get injured cave diving, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's either you're either finding or not finding. There's not much in between. So as I say, it's not really a sport that allows for comic mistakes. You know what I mean? So yeah.
You haven't like jumped in with your dry suit undone or anything?
I was waiting for that.
Actually, no. I have. I'll tell you, I did one. I jumped in with a set of shades on in Malta once. That's a good point. Because again, I had my shades on in the back of the boat, and we were kitted up, ready to go, me and my mate, and I was like, yeah, all right. And obviously I had something across my eyes and I had glass in the way, and just, through that kind of instinctively, I knew my mask was on because I could feel the thing, it was just there. And I just turned and gave him the thumbs up and just kind of, casually lobbed in sideways. And I could see him like massively grinning as I went in. I was like, oh, what's wrong with that? Got in, I was like, oh my God, masks come off. And then I was like, oh no, that's not a mask, because it came to the surface, and he was just holding my mask in his hands, going, "You looking for this?" So yeah, I did jump in with a set of shades on, around a mask once. We've all been there.
My friends won't let me forget that last year at the start of the dive season, the first dive, and I was with a group of students, and it's always a bit of a mad one. The first weekend away. First dive, I jumped in and my dry suit was undone. So, and I got an award for that off the dive centre as well.
Never done that. I've had a mate who's done it, and he just cracked on. He did it. We're on a dive, and he jumped in with his zip open. I don't know how far open. It wasn't open all the way. It was just open a bit. But and he didn't tell anyone until after the dive. We got back in the boat, and then he was like, "You have a 40-minute dive in the channel," and he's like, "Yeah." He was gibbering. He was like, it wasn't deep, so there was no, if it had been a deep dive, deco dive would have said, that's dangerous. You can't be doing that, mate. But it was a shallow little boat dive just round the shore in Devon, and he just bruised it. It's like
mine was wide open, and that poured in. Yeah.
Well, that's what I mean, because I do a reasonable amount of solo diving these days. All my dry suits are front entry, and also because when you're doing working dives, like when you're filming or whatever, you just need to be getting yourself dressed, sort yourself out. You don't be always taking people away from their task, like the cameraman, to zip you up. So all mine are front entry. So I always do a little double check before I zip up and all that, and then before I put my set on, be it open circuit or rebreather, I'll just glance down to my right hip and double check both the zips. It's just part of my kind of routine now.
What dry suit do you use?
I've got a fourth element Argonaut. In fact,
right, yeah.
I've got fourth element Argonauts. It's quite nice because I do work with fourth element, so that's why I managed to blag two. Because the thing is, I do generally need two dry suits because when I'm away on projects, like we did with the Britannic a couple of years ago, that was a big, expensive BBC shoot, and I was out there for 10 days, and it's 100. Although the water's relatively warm, it's still 120 meter dive, so you can't be having a dry suit leak. So I was like, said to the guys, I need a spare dry suit because if the zip breaks or seal breaks, I can't be going, right, that's it, filming's finished for today while I go and fix this. I need to be like, okay, take it off, put new one back on, and get in the water. It's why I carry spares of just about everything. I've even got a spare head from a rebreather, because when you're being paid to do a job, it's not a club dive. You've got to be your dry suit's leaking, well, either change your dry suit or you jump in your wet one, but we don't care. Get on with it. So yeah, for filming, you've given me a second dry suit, which is really handy, really handy.
I could do. One of our friends has done a bit of blackwater diving. Have you ever tried that?
Yeah, I've done bits of it. I've done some in the UK actually.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, you could argue that a lot of UK diving is blackwater diving, but yeah, it was. And I've done a bit of kind of, I suppose you call it blackwater snorkeling as well. Went out in a boat and just dropped off with on the surface with snorkels and torches and that stuff, and didn't see a huge amount. I mean, but there are good places to go in the world, and there are not so good places. And I've not done any good places, so I can't really pass judgment. I'd like to do it. I mean, because I love night dives. I do like night dives. Well, I mean, cave diving is basically night diving, isn't it, all the time? Yeah. But yeah, I've not done a huge amount of it, to be fair.
Okay, cool. So aspirations for the future. I know you've been working on the latest James Bond, as you're helping on that as well, and you've got other sort of projects. Where do you sort of see yourself in the sort of next few years, sort of 5 years, something like that?
Well, hopefully being able to leave the house. That's the main objective for the short term. Yeah, I mean, this I was initially brought on to the Bond film as an underwater kind of guy, and but did other things. Well, ended up doing climbing stuff and military stuff, and that was brilliant, absolutely amazing. And again, harking back to the thing with the dive team, the reason that Bond was such a good job to work on for pretty much the best part of a year was the people. They're absolutely lovely. And I was part of the stunt team. The stunt team, were all super professional, super motivated, super talented, but also just really, really nice people. It was a pleasure to go to work every single day.
Is there anything particular we've got to look out for in the new Bond film?
I can't really say. The non-disclosure agreement I had to sign was fairly lengthy and quite technical, and the Bond lawyers are better than anything I'd ever get. So I don't really know what I can and can't say, so I just tend to default to saying nothing. There's some underwater stuff, obviously. Yeah, there's some amazing car and bike stuff. There's an amazing bike stunt. I think that's actually been out in the trailer, so I can say that. That's been in the public domain. And then, yeah, I'm hoping to do more stunt work because it was just such good fun, and the team brilliant. Oh, is that you or me? That's me. I'm very much a flint axe kind of guy when it comes to technology. Where was I? Yeah, so hopefully do more stunt work because it was just really nice. It was interesting work to do. Hopefully you can do more filmmaking, both documentary stuff and slightly more abstract kind of art stuff. Like we've got this free diving. I've got this free diving idea. It's basically a sort of sci-fi fight sequence using free divers in a swimming pool. So I'd like to try and make that myself, a little short film. I'm doing some sort of little short documentaries for soon to and Fourth Element this year, and the Marine Conservation Society is going to be involved in that, and that's going to be all self-shot. So I'm going to try and shoot the whole film myself, and be in it, but do it in such a way that it doesn't look like a selfie. So using drones, using underwater drones, to try and make it look like there's a dive team filming me, but actually there's not, So, and that'll involve sea kayaks and paddle boards as well, actually, because it's mostly free diving. Just from a logistical point of view, it's much easier if you're going to be self-filming and trying to make this whole thing myself. But yeah, do it. Yeah. And then we've got a load of ideas in with various TV channels to do various documentary stuff, mostly underwater or with an underwater element. Not all of it. There's one or two pictures that aren't. There's one that hasn't got underwater. The rest have. I'm doing some work with the UK space community, so some of the people from the UK Space Agency, just test piloting some of they're building some prototype equipment, both air and underwater, and I'm going to give them a hand for that.
Do they approach you, or do you send the feelers out?
No. Well, I met the sort of electric jet engines that I'd strapped to my legs on Beyond Bionic for the skydive was built by this sort of effectively rocket scientist, and we gone quite well. And I was asking about other stuff, and I pitched some ideas. So I've got some ideas for this sort of kit. Could you build something to do this? He was like, yeah. So it's rare that you meet people who are even madder than you are. But the UK Space Agency is just full of these guys who are all got like 200 IQs and are mad as a bag of frogs in the best way. Like you're like, right, I'd like to build a pair of boots, rocket boots that will take me to the moon. And they're like, okay, yeah, how do we do that? Well, we'll need some, and they start making notes. It's brilliant. It's just they don't. I think people who work in the space community don't really have boundaries, because if you had kind of boundaries to your ambitions or your vision, you wouldn't work in space. So brilliant to work with. So there's that. I'm gonna try and do more of my own stuff on like YouTube and IGTV, which I'm kind of learning about YouTube. I'm about 10 years behind the curve. I'm gonna start working on an existing YouTube channel, but that's not announced yet, so I can't say any more because they want to release the information first. What else? I've got a few expeditions. I've got a few cave diving and expeditions on the go. What else? I don't know. I mean, it depends how long we've got. And then in 5 years' time, I don't know. The problem is that you never know. You know, it's okay to have a sort of 5-year plan, but it better be very, 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 very flexible because, you know, I had a 4-week plan for March and, you know, that's gone completely. So I think planning too far in advance is a waste of time because things just right. And even with Bond, like, you know, in February, the start of February last year, I had no idea what 2019 was looking pretty shaky with a number of TV projects and experts that had been canned last minute by various financial and political reasons that's been canned. And then out of the blue, a few things happened. Next thing you know, you're working as part of the stunt team on a James Bond film. I mean, like, well, that wasn't what I planned 2019 to be like. So you know what? You never know. You never know.
And things could go really, really busy once things get back to some kind of normality. Things could all of a sudden just get really, really busy.
And they will do. I mean, some of the stuff I've got to do is my own projects, but some of it I've got to do. I'm obliged. It's work that I've already signed up to. So between whenever we get released, the beginning of November, I've got a lot to pack in. You know, I've got almost like 9 months work to fit into however many months we get. It could be as little as 2 or 3 months. So, you know, I'm going to be away a lot, but that's fine because I'm at home all the time right now. So it'd be nice to get out and about.
Yeah.
I'm supposed to be competing as part of Team GB at the Skydiving World Cup this year in the end of August in Russia. So, but whether that is or not, I don't know.
That's brilliant. Well, thank you very much. Thanks for for giving us some time to go through the interview and that with you. That's been really good. It's been fascinating hearing about your diving and.
No worries. Not at all. Not at all. It's been nice to talk about diving since we can't actually do any of the real thing at the moment. So you know, okay, cool. No worries.
Thank you very much.
See you later.
Thank
Cheers.
you.
Thank you.
Hello, this is Gemma from the Big Scuba podcast. You've just listened to episode 7, so thank you very much for downloading. It was a really interesting episode, hearing about the underwater cave exploration and Andy's other diving adventures. So Andy will be back in episode 8. So if you've got any questions that you'd like us to put to him, or any questions for Ian or I, please send us a direct message on any of our social media platforms, so Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, or email us at thebigscubapodcast@gmail.com, and then we can put those all together and then get those answered in the next episode. So we'll be back for episode 8 in a week or so. So in the meantime, stay safe and thank you very much for downloading. Bye.